I didn't want other girls or women to go through what I went through. We wanted to kind of rewrite the stories of space women to come.
This is Space for All. Welcome to Space for All. I'm your host, Valerie McKiernan. Today, we're speaking with Dr. Mindy Howard. Dr. Mindy is the CEO and founder of the Cosmic Girls Foundation. The Cosmic Girls Foundation is a nonprofit seeking to fill the space pipeline with women. They recently launched the 6 Girls, 6 Continents competition, which I am extremely excited about. Listen in to my conversation with Dr. Mindy to find out more. Dr. Mindy, thank you so much for joining us today on the Space for All podcast. Can you do me a favor and just introduce yourself before we get started?
Sure. I'm Mindy Howard, CEO and founder of the Cosmic Girls Foundation.
That is incredible. And you have many different titles, right? This is not the only thing you do. What else is in your arsenal currently?
I'm also the CEO and founder of Inner Space Training, the world's only mental preparedness training for commercial astronauts.
Mental preparedness training. That's not available anywhere else in the world currently?
Currently not.
Wow. That's wild to me.
Which is astounding, People go into space without mental training. Wow. But it's happening.
It's ridiculous. Okay, so you now have 2 businesses in the space industry. How did you get here? How did you even get started in the space industry?
Oh, boy. Well, I feel like, I've had a dream to become an astronaut like a lot of people have, and I have tried a number of different ways to get there. By first, the traditional path, if you have the right nationality, which is maybe becoming an agency astronaut. I first tried at NASA and got down to the last 200 people, and that was the highly qualified astronaut candidate list. But then I didn't make it further on that list. And then it's one of these things that it's always been there for me, a dream. I've gone back into industry, started to work in a variety of different roles. And then when I ended up leaving, it was the oil industry, came back to my love of space and started as an astronaut trainer, which is a funny story in itself. But then, one thing leads to the next, and I'm sort of carving out a completely, not only like a role for myself, but also supporting the next generation of female space explorers. So it's not about me anymore, but it's about who's coming and what their dreams are.
Wow. Okay. So you started out trying to become an astronaut at NASA. Then
Yes.
You joined the oil and gas industry.
Correct.
And then you made your way back into the space industry. What was that transition?
Well, it's kind of a funny little story because when I was working this was at Royal Dutch Shell, they were having a reorganization, and they said, if anybody wants to volunteer, we'll give you some money, and we'll also give you a training to help you secure your next job. And I said, I'd like to move with money. I'd like a training. And they said, great. What do you want to do in your next job? And I said, well, I want to be an astronaut. And they were like, very funny. What do you really want to do? And I said, no, this is exactly what I want to do. And they sent me, funnily enough, to the NASTAR Center in Philadelphia, outside of Philadelphia, where they train the commercial astronauts in the centrifuge to get used to the different changing G-forces. And it was there that I saw people like myself, who a small female, and I think smaller women have an advantage in the centrifuge, shorter distance from the heart to the head to pump the blood.
Okay.
I was smiling, but yet I saw other people kind of looking like this, terrified. And it surprised me that, hey, not everybody is experiencing the G-forces the same. Is there any training out there to help people stay calm for their space flights? But because you can imagine what could happen if they're not calm and other people on your flight with you, if everybody's in the same boat, there could be some real chaos and people kind of upset that their mission is completely messed up thanks to, the guy sitting next to me. So they said, no, that didn't exist. And I thought I could create that mental preparedness training. So created inner space training, the first and only mental preparedness training for commercial astronauts, and then started to give trainings to people who had the insight to want to become an astronaut. But essentially, it hasn't been mandatory to do this training. But then I was discovered because I did a TED Talk by a group of people, by a guy who said, we're having our own competition where the winners of the competition will win a space flight. And we'd like you to train us to go to space and accompany us. Are you interested? And I remember thinking, wow, did he just ask me to go to space?
Hold on. This has been my dream for decades now. What?
Right? But it was a little bit of a situation. Well, in the end, because it was going to happen in 2023. And what happened in between was the pandemic. So unfortunately, this group is not going. But in the meantime, because I'm now living in the Netherlands, I now also have a second passport. So I have a Dutch citizenship. The word got out that I could potentially be the first Dutch woman to go to space. And that made the local media here. So, been kind of like been on a number of different talk shows and radio shows and talking about commercial space as potentially the first Dutch female. And funnily enough, I think it's now about a year or so ago, the Royal Dutch Mint, the company that makes the coins for all different currencies like the euro, they contacted me and said, we saw your that you're going to be going to space. We want to make a €1 coin about the first Dutch female astronaut. And I thought, okay, that's cool, but I'm not sure about this flight, if it's ever going to be happening or not. I felt funny making like a coin, but I didn't even know when I had an actual date to fly anymore. But I said that, the Netherlands was one of many countries who didn't have a female astronaut representing them.
Yeah.
And perhaps we could change the theme of the coin to the Women to Space coin to bring about awareness, that the fact that we need to get more women in space from more countries. And they agreed. And this coin came out last October. So actually there's a proper coin with a €1 thingy right next to it. And I started thinking like, okay, now that we have a coin to get more, how do we use this coin to get more girls into space? How are we going to leverage this coin? And then the idea of Cosmic Girls came to me, and all the things that are underneath and encompassed with Cosmic Girls Foundation. And it all seemed to make sense. It's all of a sudden I'm running a charity to get more girls into space. But it's kind of a funny way to say, like, yeah, this is how I got here, but it's not like I planned it all very, coherently. It just turned out to be this incredible sort of journey to get here.
Wait, so how many years has it been since the time you left the oil and gas industry to today?
I left in 2010, so that's 14 years ago.
Okay, so 14 years ago is when it's remarkable that they even provided this type of package, by the way.
I know.
This was a Dutch company, right?
Yeah, well, it's Royal Dutch Shell, so Shell Oil is the American equivalent. This is, so at that time, those were the packages, at least the Dutch package. I think the Netherlands a very good sort of way to say, okay, bye here. Right. We don't move out on the streets. So they actually did something pretty cool.
That's amazing. Yeah. And then, okay, so they sent you for that training outside of Philadelphia. And then from there, you have started a nonprofit focused on getting young women into space, and a business for mental health in space, training in space.
Correct.
So,
perfect.
And all of this you've done without jumping on another flight. That's incredible.
Well,
that you've done all of that.
Yeah, no, thank you. I mean, it's still my intention to go, but maybe in another capacity.
You need to get up there. This is, we need to start.
I would like to go as a trainer, right. Trainer of Cosmic Girls.
Absolutely.
So, so one way or another, we're getting there.
Yes.
I'm good.
Yes,
I'm convinced.
absolutely. All right. So tell me a little bit about Cosmic Girls, just kind of an overview of what the nonprofit is for.
Sure. Okay. Well, I think, Cosmic Girls' mission is nothing short of audacious, and that is to provide girls who are between 14 and 19. This is at the moment from diverse sort of socioeconomic demographics worldwide, the opportunity to kind of get upskilled and mentored as a commercial astronaut, and even with one lucky girl who can win a trip to space. And so we're essentially here to build and to feed the female talent pipeline with capable tech savvy girls, together with our international nonprofit partners who are helping us upskill the girls. So that's, we're giving, all girls will receive upskilling by our different partners in three main areas, the STEAM skills, key life skills, and astronaut skills. And so out of all the girls will get that, will get that opportunity. But then 6 girls will be chosen based on their applications to become finalists who are going to receive world-class astronaut training, where they'll be flown to Europe and the States where they'll get that astronaut training. And then out of those 6 girls, we will then select one girl who will win an actual space flight. So it's pretty incredible. We understand that, not every girl in the competition, will become an astronaut as they grow up or at any time, because, the odds are so low of that happening. However, if we can get her to have the skills in becoming an astronaut, she'll also have the skills to become whatever she decides, including having an exciting career in the tech or aerospace industry. So it's really about building that technical and aerospace talent pipeline. Yeah. And then, of course, there's for 6 lucky girls, one step more, the actual astronaut training piece, and then the space flight. Wow. So, yeah, it's we know that there's a lot of girls who drop out of that talent pipeline. First of all, who don't even hear about that, space is for them. So we're trying to attract them into the pipeline, but then, girls at different ages for different reasons end up leaving the pipeline, and we're trying to help keep them in by engaging them, not only with these, this capacity building, but also, we're going to bring the girls together to have to talk in our Cosmic Forum, which is our kind of like online community. So these are girls who are finally finding other girls like themselves worldwide who like the same things they like. Sometimes they geek out, and sometimes they see like, wow, I didn't even know there were other girls like me who like the same thing. So we're starting to see, the girls join this, because we haven't officially opened yet, but we hope that that's going to be a big, inspiration for the girls to kind of stay in that pipeline, is meeting one another and how they're going to give one another support. So it's also, women and girls helping each other.
Yeah.
Stay in that.
Yeah. So, all right. So if the girls apply, then they, regardless of being down selected or not, they have access to life skills training and some STEAM training, among other things. And is that going to be via your online network? So the forum specifically?
No. So the forum is where they're meeting each other, but what they have to do is they have to fill out an application to join the competition. And when they join the competition, they also have to select one of our different program partners that they're going to do their education piece with. And we have different types of program partners. Some are, at different stages, by the way, of advancement. Like, some of them are teaching basic skills of math, science, physics, and others are teaching girls how to build rockets and launch rockets or satellites. And so there's a wide range, and some, a lot of the different program partners are also sort of helping the girls like where they are to get to where they need to be in order to do some of this practical training. Yeah. So we know it's, sometimes scary for girls to like, who haven't done this sort of stuff before, like, can I do it? But, there is a lot of hand holding that's also possible with us, from the actual program partners themselves. And an ability for them to grow within that program.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool.
One of the biggest issues that I know has been spoken about recently is that we can support women early on, right? Elementary school, middle school, but then the support kind of drops off after that. Like high school is not really as much focused on to keep women interested in engineering or anything to do with like STEAM. So this is offering something that we really do have a gap in. And then on top of that, the forum, giving access to those to women all around the world to have those conversations is just, for lack of a better word, so cool. I would have loved to have that in high school and talking to people all around the world. That's just that's a really, really cool thing.
It's cool. Especially like if I think about my own journey and, how many times people have sort of ridiculed me when I told them that I wanted to become an astronaut. They're like, yeah, well, I want $1 million. But, these sort of comments, if you don't have a thick skin, you won't have, that determination, you can take a lot of these comments to heart and then just drop out. So it's, like these girls can also sort of talk to one another in the forum and say, what do I say when, somebody gives me a negative comment back, and they can share that and they can get support from one another. So that's really kind of cool. That, it's not just coming from me. It's just like, parents are always thinking that their kid is like fabulous. They don't want to hear it from people, that, of course you would think that kids are fabulous, but they want to hear it from their peers. Like, how did you deal with that? That sort of stuff. So it's not only about like, crying on one another's shoulders. There's a lot of inspiration, and a lot of girls actually who haven't confronted any sort of negativity, which is pretty amazing. And maybe it's a sign of the times.
It's great.
But for sure, maybe, and I think like, great, let's keep it that way. But, in the past, just having experienced, enough non-welcoming or exclusionary behavior from the good old boys in Space Network, I kind of know what it's like to feel like a fighter in the business, and I didn't want other girls or women to go through what I went through. So we wanted to kind of rewrite the stories of space women to come, so they didn't have to go through those things. But so far, a lot of the girls are just like, nope, never experienced it. I'm like, good. Very good. I'm happy to hear it.
If you think about it, right? I'm trying to think of when I was between 14 and 19. I think the only thing accessible to me at the time was like MySpace, and Facebook had just really started. So that wasn't, I don't even think I would have considered talking to people around the world about this industry at the time, even though I was already involved in it. I would have never considered that. It was just so to now have this ability. I can't even imagine the differences that these girls are experiencing versus what we did.
No, for sure. It's pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing to be able to have that. And you wouldn't, the good news for these girls is that we're just not letting anybody into the forum. It's like, you have to be one of the girls who apply for the competition, or our program partner directors are allowed also in, but it's a closed kind of community. We welcome those who want to join this community, but it's, we monitor it, and we don't just let anybody in. There's like a whole check to get into the form, including parental approval and that sort of stuff. So,
that's great.
We're really careful about keeping it, a safe place.
Yeah. Okay. So, the girls that apply, they're in the program and they get down selected. You said there's going to be six girls.
So it's called the 6 Girls, 6 Continents competition, and one girl from each continent will be the 6 girls who will eventually get that astronaut, commercial astronaut training.
And what does the training entail?
The training is essentially, what we offer for like commercial astronauts, which is that centrifuge training that I was telling you about earlier, the mental preparedness training, of inner space training, and then a parabolic flight.
Okay.
And it's not just like a parabolic flight that most people go on, to experience what it's like to be, in zero G, where you see everybody doing this on the bumping into walls. It's about actually getting people to do skills while in flight and to kind of understand, how their body, both mentally and physically, react under those conditions, so that they can learn how to kind of maximize themselves for the actual space flight. So it's not just like just what they call a discovery flight, which is just every person for themselves, bumping into things, but we're going to be actually teaching skills and having them like learn how to get better, how to navigate from point A to point B. How does one do that, and not just like go off and sink or swim? So and see what it's like. So it's going to be a proper training, not just discovery.
Okay, got it. And okay, so this is the training the women are going to receive, right? If you're a commercial astronaut today, what type of training do you actually get before you're put into the shuttle?
Well, if you're a commercial astronaut, so that's sort of my specialty. If you're a commercial astronaut, then that's like the trifecta of astronaut training. These three elements. At the moment, nothing is mandatory. What the commercial space operators are talking about is that they give training, and if you actually sort of go and kind of investigate, like what do they do, you're basically getting a little bit of a more advanced in training, like here are the emergency exits, here's how you leave the shuttle on the launch pad, or the spacecraft on the launch pad if you need to escape, kind of emergency egress training. But that's kind of it, and maybe some orientation of like, these are the people you're flying with, get to know them better. It's not what I would consider, from a trainer's perspective, an actual training. Although there is, this emergency egress, here's what to do in the case of, a fire, as before you're taking off. But that's not necessarily like, how do you optimize yourself in order to achieve your mission while you're up in space, and how do you kind of balance that with the other members of your crew who are doing things that might actually be going against what you want to do. So that is much more, that I think is needed, and that is what most commercial astronauts needed, and it's not mandatory. Although I've heard that this year the FAA is going to start to make some of these trainings mandatory.
I was going to say
because. It's been but it hasn't been up until now.
Feels like we're a little behind. Because so if I wanted to go to space, so say I got on a space flight somehow, I would basically show up the day before and go through some little bit of trainings. And then the next day we put on a flight. I mean, what happens if like I have a panic attack? With there's no like, hey, get in this situation and see if you're going to melt. Like, what?
You might melt and kick people in the head on melting. So, and there could be some, I anticipate, and other people sort of in the health and safety and human factors sort of working groups that I'm in also anticipate, some incidents, if not major incidents or accidents, happening when flights start getting going, if there is no training. So I think this is to be expected. So far, there has been nothing, reported. Whether there's been nothing is another situation. Nothing has been reported. But yeah, it's you can predict that if, especially when you're in a panicky situation, all bets are off. And then people are just like, I paid my $500,000. I want to get my, it's my window. I'm looking out of it. You can imagine all sorts of scenarios.
It's only like 12 minutes, right? So I can imagine things happening.
Yeah. Blue Origin is about 11 minutes, 12 minutes, and then Virgin Galactic's, although I don't know their new Delta flight trajectory, how long that will be, but the old one was 90 minutes. So, but still 44 minutes of weightlessness, more or less, for each of them. And so, that's like the moment supreme. I don't know how to pronounce it. But it's when it's all happening, and then it's every person for themselves. And it ain't going to be pretty, I think. If
I just think about, I know it's not nearly the same thing, but scuba diving, you go through so much training for scuba diving, right? And I just think about the many things that can happen. I'm just assuming that a lot of things can happen as soon as you launch. So I'm glad discussions are happening about this. And I'm so happy that you started this company, because I can't even imagine. Well,
I hope soon that people will be beating my doors down instead of me knocking on doors and saying, hey, maybe you guys should think about mental preparedness training. And it's funny because there really is maybe a stigma, of people, everybody thinks it's normal to do, physical training. But if you say mental training, there's already well, I'm not mentally disturbed. Why would I need a training? Yeah.
Jeez. Okay.
But it's so people don't get it until they're having their panic attack, and start disturbing other people with their panic attack, and then somebody causing another panic attack. Yeah, you can do the math and see not a good recipe for success. Can be successful, but no guarantees there. And I think that the odds are better if you actually do some training and at least can control your own, your own mental capacity, because you can't control other people. But if you're unflappable, then no matter if there's a foot going on, in your head, you'll still be able to accomplish.
I almost want to take that training just for everyday life, because I feel like there's so many different ways I can think of using that training in a day-to-day situation, like on work calls, for example. I can't control that person, but I can control myself.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, I've given this training to sort of high-performing individuals and others who have the insight to say, hey, why don't I learn some of these techniques? So, of course, it's possible. It's possible. It doesn't have to be for commercial astronauts, but they're all, there's also some pieces that are built into the training that are specifically, for the Virgin or Blue Origin flights.
That makes sense. And if someone wanted to take your training, how do they get in contact with you for that?
Via Inner Space Training, my website, www.innerspacettraining.com.
Is it virtual for the most part?
No, actually, I've done mainly face-to-face trainings. People have talked they say, why don't you give an online training? And I think I can do, because it's modular, some parts of it online, but, and I think we actually will be doing pieces of it for the Cosmic Girls too. So not the full, for the 6 winners, they're going to get the full training, but, for all the other girls, I think we'll give some bits and pieces to our community. Just so we can get a taste of it too, because it's, of course it could help them.
Absolutely. Okay. So the Cosmic Girls competition launched on October 4th. If somebody would like to get involved, whether it's a business, a girl, or some, I don't know, anyone to just help out, what is the best way for them to get involved?
Also via our website, cosmicgirls.com, .org.
Hold on, start again.
Whoops. Anyway, but I mean, we're always looking for individuals who want to volunteer their time. They can do that, by contacting us via our website. We are, by the way, looking right now for a Cosmic Girls Forum managers in several regions. So we definitely would love to have people's support, to help the girls in this moderating the discussions that are going on online. So if you're interested, please contact us. But in terms of companies looking for employee engagement opportunities, or potentially mentoring, becoming a mentor to some of the girls or big sisters of the girls, And also helping with our competition. We're going to be needing some judges eventually. Um, and I forgot to mention, this whole sort of journey of the six girls is going to be sort of immortalized with a Netflix type documentary. So it also means that if the companies, and others who are supporting us, they're going to be also getting some good brand exposure, both, in our worldwide platforms, but also in the documentary, where we can offer companies access to, let's say, their logo on a girl's spacesuit, access to future female technical talent, and of course product placement and things. So there's a lot of really cool, benefits for partners, corporate partners who want to support us.
Yeah.
And educational institutions or other kinds of program partners, we're always looking for more international program partners. So worldwide, we need many more, and we're hoping that we can offer that more partners for the next round. More, because we have a combination of partners that do face-to-face stuff and some that are doing online stuff. But the more we have, the more girls have a higher quality experience. So they can just sort of like use the contact us form on our website, and all of these different groups can be in touch with us, and we would love to have you. As a partner, as a sponsor, as a donor.
Great. So you're looking for sponsors, you're looking for donors and volunteers to help out in different ways. And of course, you're looking for girls aged 14 to 19 to apply. Yes, for the time being to apply. And why, I forgot to ask you, why specifically that age group?
I think we had to select, program partners that are, of a certain group, a certain age group, and a lot of them are like high school age program partners. Some of them are either very early or very late, and we wanted to select. Let's say there was a lot of program partners, in that high school age group. And of course, if they're too young, they're not going to be able to do some of the training that we're offering. So we need to, be able to sort of, it's kind of like a balance. There's no perfect age, actually. I mean, and I've gotten girls, who are like 20 going like, wow. And I just, it kills me because I hate closing doors to people, but I just say like, watch this space. It's maybe not always only going to be between 14 and 19, but for this first year, we're keeping it. That's the age group. But it's kind of because for practical reasons, regarding the program partners that we were engaging
and
with.
The girls can apply now to be a part of the Cosmic Girls competition. What's that process? Do they send in their application? What is there a period of time where you'll start giving them access to these different items?
Yeah, so from the point that they fill out their application on our website, which went live the 4th of October, then they also have to sign up with a program partner. The program partner, each of the different program partners are kind of like on their own schedule. So that's one of the reasons why they joined us, because they don't have to do anything different except open their doors for the Cosmic Girls and provide extra spaces. So some program partners are only doing summer programs. Some program partners are, let's say, doing webinars in the weekend or once a month. So it depends on the program partner to know when they're going to be starting the program. And some have like year-round programs that the girls can just sort of jump in on, and then they can just start from where they are at that point, and then make up, if there's any sort of homework or things that they have to do. Sometimes their videos are going to be online. So if they've missed a couple of them, because we don't know when not everybody's, joining from the very beginning. Some might join, 3 months from now. And we want to give them a quality experience as well. So it's kind of like, we don't know how many is going to be joining, in the beginning, in the middle, in the end, before we stop and say, okay, now
Yeah.
we're in the judging phase of the applications. But so, yeah, it's kind of for this first time
Yeah.
a mystery as to, what's going, but it's good that we have different program partners that operate on different schedules to try to suit everybody. Um, and there will always be webinars and other things available, through us throughout the year as well. So in case people come in at the last moment, there'll still be something for them. They'll still be better
I
off
mean,
than
what a
they were
great
before.
resume builder to have those experiences, even if they don't, obviously get selected. There's only 6 girls that are going to get selected, but everything that they're going to be able to learn and use as they, get into university is that's very cool. I would have absolutely jumped on this opportunity when I was in high school. No question. So
Yeah.
you're focusing on girls, as they enter university, something that we didn't really have when we were trying to get into the industry. Did you experience any specific barriers to entry as a woman entering into the space industry?
Yeah. So, several times I can think of, and then unfortunately, usually, trying to be, first of all, becoming a NASA astronaut, it's a numbers game. But that's no different for the men than it is for the women, for the women. But so, that's the first barrier I personally experienced. But then if I think about, starting space training, back in 2012 and trying to partner with the various space operators, that has been difficult. Unfortunately, being ahead of the curve is not always easy because if there are no regulations, let's say these commercial operators have to do any kind of training, they're not banging on my door. But I think also I didn't have a real network in these space companies, and I didn't know any real senior people in the industry, and I wasn't part of the good old boys network. They weren't, I was knocking on doors, but they were like either ignoring me or not interested in what I was offering, even if I could offer their customers like a better customer experience. And so, as an entrepreneur, I would have liked to have been part of that network and invited in instead of always having to prove my worth all the time. It was funny because I was once talking to an engineering manager a year or so ago who was an engineering manager in a big space company.
Yes.
I won't mention names, who confided to me that he didn't. He then became sort of the vice president of astronaut training, and he confided he didn't have any experience in astronaut training, but he knew a few guys in the executive team that go way back together. And I think, like, wow, I believe that if a woman sort of would have that position, she'd not only have to be way better than the men in that position, but proving her worth all of the time. It's emotionally draining, time consuming, and I think, quite frankly, kind of a real time waster when that time is better spent, doing the job than proving your worth. And I think, I've experienced that, and and I just sort of was astounded, like, wow, talk about getting a leg up, from your network when you're getting a vice president of astronaut training when you don't even have that experience. Like, that's what networks do. Unfortunately, like, it helps lift people in those networks up, qualified or not, unfortunately. But it just sort of struck me like, must be nice.
I had a similar. What's sad is that this still is a thing, right? Because we think, oh, we're this day and age that shouldn't be a thing, but it really is at a lot of large corporations. But I had a similar experience where the CEO of a Fortune 500 company said to me that he would never hire a C-suite exec that was a female, that didn't grow from the company and basically prove her worth, because women have other priorities, was his comment. That person is very much still in power today. So to know that, and to know how much we have to fight to get to a similar place, just to have those qualifications, it can be really daunting, really heavy to know that you're constantly up against that wall.
Yeah. And it takes extra time to do that. That's the thing, time that you could be better spent doing your job and other things,
It
but
does. And of course, it's not like all right. This
yeah,
is not
it's,
all men. This is not all, executives, but it is definitely
it's
something that we
not,
all have come up against more often than we really want. And I hope those girls that are saying to you, hey, we haven't experienced this yet or haven't had these sort of experiences, don't. I really hope that we've created an industry so far that they don't have those experiences with it, where they're even if they're one of only two women in their engineering classes, that they have the confidence to just keep on going. I hope, and I think I really feel
yeah.
like that's what you're putting out into this world, and that's what is so exciting to me. Um,
Thank you. I'd like to think so. I'd like to think I'm helping
I
that
think you are,
situation.
and
Really,
I'm just
it's
I'm excited to hear the stats and to also see what these girls are coming up with in the forum and the questions they're asking. It's very exciting. Dr. Mindy Howard, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate your time.
it's a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us today on the Space for All podcast. You can subscribe to our podcast on Spotify or iTunes, and you can watch full episodes on YouTube. We hope you will join us again for the next episode of Space for All, where we can all find a place in space.